welcome to today's Heart of the Hustle. I am here with Matt from Merritt Homes. So excited to have you here.
So glad to be here. Thanks, Sherry, for having me.
We met through some mutual friends recently, and we're just totally going to hit it off.
Oh, yeah.
A fun podcast.
Oh, it's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. So
tell us about you.
Well, you know what? I am from that state on the West Coast there, that rather large one.
Oh, the big one.
Yeah, but I kind of consider myself a refugee, if you will, from California. But you know what? I love it here. Have been here for about 5 years, and just you know what? Was a great decision for my wife and I.
And what prompted the move?
Just a life change. It was really just a life change for us, and we just needed something different. My wife had some friends that worked here, and she'd come out here once a month to do some work, and I came out with her a couple times. I'm like, you know what? This is really great. I love this. And so, we just did some soul searching and decided, you know what? Let's do it. So we did.
I find this area, we're in the Frisco, Plano, kind of McKinney, Prosper area, which is north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And I find this area it's so livable. It's just easy. Yeah. Everything's close. There's lots of housing available. We're going to spend plenty of time talking about homes and housing, but it's just a very easy place to live. I feel like I never leave really a 3-mile radius of my home, maybe 5.
There is so much to do here. There really is, and you're right. It's booming and still building out. But within 20 minutes, you have pretty much everything you need or want. Go a little bit further, you could be visiting a winery for the day, or doing some infused vodka at a distillery. We pretty much have it all.
So, since you've been here, you've been doing real estate and helping people to find homes. Is it something did you do that in California too, or is that something that you're kind of new to?
I did. I actually started real estate about 11 years ago. Started in California with a good friend and buddy of mine, Linda Baker, and we worked together for 4 or 5 years. And then when I made the move, decided we're going to start over and start doing it here.
Excellent. So how is the market different than what part of California were you in?
We were in Northern California.
Okay. So how is the market different here?
Well, the market, selling real estate's really selling real estate. It's all about the people and, helping people and working with them. The price points are sure different. I was in the San Jose market, and the average price point at the time was, for myself was, a little bit over $1 million. And what you could buy for $1 million in San Jose is quite different than what you can buy, in the Metroplex, even in towns like Prosper or Frisco. So price point, I would say, would be the biggest difference.
Yeah. And I think, and they've gone up significantly. When I moved here 10 years ago, the price points were significantly different. I think the house that I originally built when I moved here has doubled in price.
Oh, yeah.
In 10 years.
Oh, absolutely. And, you'll see the last couple of years we've had, not, minimal growth, but it was like 3 years ago, especially during COVID, right after COVID, 20%, multiple offers everywhere. It was crazy.
So that's 20% of increase in the value of the
right.
Wow.
Yeah, you mentioned that home prices have gone up like 20% a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What's the dynamic now? Because I feel like it went so fast. Maybe it's not doing that anymore. So what's the current state?
Well, it was a little bit more, than more like 3 years ago when you saw, a 20% increase in a year. But right now the dynamic is, it really depends on the city. You have, 3 to 5%, 4 to 6%, and that's kind of what we're expecting this year. At least that's what all the real estate gurus are saying. But, you have those hot markets. You still look at parts of Plano, still look at parts of Frisco, and you will sell over asking price, within 3 to 5 days if you price it right, which is crazy. And you'll have multiple offers. So, depending on the city and the area, markets kind of still a little bonkers.
That's interesting. And this, I feel, but sorry, Plano, when I say this, but I feel like Plano seems like the old part of town, right? That there aren't any like cool new places in the Plano area. So which parts of Plano are kind of still are hopping, or maybe it's all of it, and I just, I don't know now.
You know what? Plano people like to be in Plano. Legacy West. They love that area to go out and spend a Friday night or a Saturday night, kind of being down there. It's also really convenient. You're close to the airport. You've got not only manufacturing that's not that far away, but you have lots of headquarters in that area. So people want to live close to work. And, they don't want to commute 30, 40, 50 minutes like, when I was back in, that state I was talking about earlier. They want to be, 15, 20 minutes from the office. And so Plano is, very popular for that. And, some people just love that older style home and those, rich, mature trees. So, it's a pretty neat town.
Yeah, I get that because I missed, when I built a home in a new neighborhood about 10 years ago, and then I moved into an older neighborhood, and the trees, it makes such a difference, right? Now, 10 years later, the trees in that neighborhood have grown, but even then, I appreciate being in an older neighborhood because I want those trees.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you grew up on a coast, because we're used to it.
Oh, yeah. And there's something about, having a tree line street and, having that kind of canopy over the driveways, if you will, and over the street. And now, you go into you go into a new community, you see these little teeny trees, those sticks in everybody's yard. And it's not the same. It's not the same.
My neighborhood has really pretty big trees. It was built in 2000. So I guess the area is, 25 years old now. And so the trees are pretty big, right? They're bigger than the homes. But during one of the freezes a couple of years ago, a tree like 3 trees down died. Uh-oh. And so now there's this one little, big, this one little like Charlie Brown tree.
Yep. The tree that could, right?
The tree that could. It'll get there someday, but it just sticks out like a sore thumb.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why that tree died of all the other ones. All the rest in the neighborhood, all of our hedges died, but the whole neighborhood, every bush, hedge, because we're just Texans. We don't know how to handle it. I grew up on the East Coast. We knew, but even then, we got caught by surprise because we're just not used to it.
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, what was it, like 4 weeks ago? We got 6 inches worth of snow. It was, we were kind of paralyzed for a couple days there. It was funny. You kind of learn a little bit more about your neighbors when you see who shovels their driveway, who doesn't. We had kids coming by and they were knocking on the door. Hey, can we borrow your snow shovel? I'm like, heck yeah. I'm like, they're out going, to earn some money. I'm like, sweet, you go. I mean, well, you guys go home with $200 that day to, shovel some driveways. So, I mean, I love that though. When I love a neighborhood where, the kids come out, they're playing in the yard, they're playing in the street, they're, running around. That sound of springtime and summer, it's awesome.
Do you see neighborhoods like that still in this North Dallas area? I feel like it's a very transitory place. And so, but you spend more time in more neighborhoods. Do you still see that kind of, snow shovel, let's help out our neighbors types of things? Or does it vary by neighborhood?
Oh, it totally varies by neighborhood. And, it really depends on what you're looking for, too. If you're kind of looking for those executive homes with, not a lot of yard, then you're going to, it's going to be a little bit less of that kind of, knock on the door and it's like, hey, can Johnny come out and play? Compared to, some established areas. I live in Star Trail over in Prosper, and that's our block is all the kids, kind of, convene over at one guy's house or one person's house. And they're playing basketball. In fact, that was them a couple nights ago, where they're out playing basketball or they're out, playing soccer in the middle of the street. And it's like, car, just like, when we were growing up. So, yeah, it does still exist. It really just depends on the neighborhood and if that's something you're looking for.
Okay, so I've heard that all the Dallas Cowboys players live in Prosper. Is it true? And can you draw us a minute?
Exactly. Here's the map of the stars. I could put one out in front of my house. You can take one. All the map. That'd be awesome.
So, what are your favorite places? So, if someone's moving here, let's say from that big state over on the coast that we don't talk about. If they're coming here and they know they want to be, you're right. There are a lot of headquarters in Plano. We're in Plano right now. Where do you recommend that they go? Because Plano used to be as far north as you went, and then it was Frisco was as far north, and then it was Prosper is as far north, and now it seems to keep going. So what are some of your favorite places right now?
As far as places to live or places to live, you know what? Well, I'm a little partial to Prosper since I do live there. Absolutely love that. Have seen the town even grow in the last, half decade that I've been there, and just really like that kind of small town feel to it. But you know what? Frisco's also amazing. Great town, of course, a little more built out, and you know what? They've got PGA now, which is fantastic. And the next year we'll have the Universal Studios, the Kids Land, which is gonna be amazing. And then, Salina's building out, and that's going like crazy right now.
Yeah.
So really getting huge. But those are, off the top of my head, those are probably my 3 favorite cities.
What about for affordability? What do you think is sort of because everybody wants a deal, right? So where are sort of the best deals? Where can you get the most for your money right now?
I think that as far as best deals, if you're best value, still you can find some great value in Prosper with some great schools. Also in Salina, you have some new construction, some new developments there that have the Prosper schools, the Prosper ISD. If you have young kids, that's a great place to be. And, I think those are 2 of the, my favorite ones right now. And then, of course, Frisco. Again, you're not going to find as much new construction there, but there's still some great neighborhoods you can get in for a good price.
I think it's all relative. Somebody who grew up on the East Coast, right? I have a client who has a house that was built in the late 1700s. And so to us, it's like, well, this was made in 2000. Like, that's really new. But in Frisco, it's like, oh, well, that's an older home. But I guess, if you like that kind of thing.
It's so true. People are so jaded. And that, coming from that West Coast, mentality, I was selling homes that were built in the 60s, 1960s. Those who don't know. But I mean, that's crazy. You just don't see that around here. Everything is, 10 years is an older home. People, just in the Metroplex, people want a newer home or new construction. And 5-6 years old. And then, everybody's like, oh, how's the construction on this? This is, again, older home. Crazy. But people move here so frequently. Again, the average is, 7 to 10 years before people move from one home to another. We're more like 5 or less. So it's just nuts.
Well, I think people realize that there's so much new home building that there's other opportunities, right? Like now, if you live in Frisco and you want something larger, it may be unaffordable for you in Frisco, but you can go up to Salina, right? And get a much bigger home for, a little bit less money if you don't mind, the extra drive, or just depending on what's going on with from your school systems, or, the great thing that happened during COVID was we got to stay home a little bit more.
It is.
So how did that change the dynamic? You came right, I guess 5 years, it must have been right during COVID.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. COVID was a whole different thing. And the whole differences between, California and Texas and COVID was, bonkers in itself. But, you bring up a very interesting, point, is that the sellers that I'm seeing now are, there are a lot of move-up buyers, and not necessarily moving up to a larger home, but they're also moving up to a larger lot. So people are, hey, we've got a, house on, 8,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. We want, over a quarter acre, over a half acre, 2 acres. And I love that. And the best way to do that is you're going to move a little farther north, or, you're going to move a little bit more east or a little bit more west. And you can do that. And, with what your home's appreciated in the last few years, you can get a lot for your money.
So if you wanted more than an acre, to me, that feels completely unattainable without driving another hour north. But can you still find an acre or 2, and where?
Oh, heck yeah. That's easy. I mean, within 20 minutes, you can find an acre. No problem. Let's just use Prosper as an example. You can go up to Weston. So you're going to go east of Weston and absolutely have an acre. Salina, sure. Take your pick. Plenty of acre lots in Salina. You can even find an acre in Prosper. Going to be a little tad more expensive than, to do that. Also you can go to Aubrey, easy right in through there. So again, within 20 minutes, you can absolutely have an acre, and, you get that right on mower.
That would be fun. I had one of those snow blowers that was like the self-propulsion. kind of snow blowers that reminds me of like the the lawn mowers that we had as kids that were like that would pull you. They would pull you so hard that like I would be like 8 and falling behind them. I don't know.
I've seen them, never actually driven one, but yeah,
Oh, you got to go get an acre for yourself. You can buy one.
I'm telling you, the ride-on mower though, I think the only time I used those was doing the Little League outfield, when my kids were young. But I don't know, depending on my wife, that another one might be in my future someday. So
There you go. All right, you mentioned kids. Tell us about your kids.
have 3 kids. Let's see, they're a little bit older nowadays. Calling them kids are more like adult children. Let's see, my oldest Andrew is 27, and then we have Ashlyn, who is 25, and also Mitchell, who is going to be turning 25 this, this October. So,
And they've all flown the nest.
they have all flown the nest. Ashlyn is a school teacher in the area. Mitchell's in the Air Force, and he is in flight training right now. And Andrew's in California.
How is the dynamic different now that you are a empty nester?
Well, it's definitely, I'd say that it's definitely kind of a head trip when you have adult children. It is definitely kind of trippy, especially the first time you, share an adult beverage with your kids. It is, wow, that is all sorts of just bizarre, very surreal when I was seriously sitting and having a cocktail with your kids, like, wow, okay. I remember it was a juice box, not not a beer, and so that's definitely very wild. I wouldn't say the problems, because I mean the kids are great, but I would say the challenges in watching them go through life and find themselves is definitely also kind of a trip as well. It's just you're more kind of sitting back and watching them as adults, and there's just such great satisfaction in that. And it's not so much wiping off the boo-boo and giving the Band-Aids. It's more just watching them, come into their own. And again, it's an experience that, is once in a lifetime, to say the least.
So from a housing perspective, do you see a lot of empty nesters in this area downsizing? Is that a trend over time, or you have mostly families still? To me, Frisco seems much more family prosper as well. It seems to be more families with kids at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny. Right now, I've been working with, a lot, on both ends of the spectrum, working with, families that have very young children who are looking to, move up into a school district for their kids, kind of making that, planting that stake in the ground and saying, all right, we're going to be here for the next few years because we want a, good elementary school for our kids. And then I have other clients who the other kids are headed off to college. So it's like, we really don't need that 4,500 square foot home anymore. So they're, going to downsize to a single story, something around, 3,300 square feet. Yes, with a little more fun, maybe just a pool in the backyard, or, maybe that, as I said, that gentleman farmer thing, picking up half an acre so they can, have chickens or have something fun. So.
Oh, chickens. I don't know if I want chickens. Would you want chickens?
Well, it's not necessarily whether I want chickens, it's whether my wife wants chickens.
Does your wife want chickens?
Yeah, she does. And
chickens are in your future.
That and mini goats and mini cows. It's pretty much, I think there's a barnyard somewhere in my future at some point. So
I'll get the riding mower out of it.
I will. And, I probably get, they're just going to call him Mr. Green Jeans or something. It just, that's really dating myself. That was bad. I don't know if we want to, edit that one out, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The overalls. Okay.
On the John Deere tractor.
There you go. Oh, the John Deere. Here, I get a hat out of it too. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Might need the air conditioned tractor though.
Oh, now you're wimping out.
Really?
Yeah, come on.
Okay. Don't get that whole, the tan lines from here down and okay.
Well, that's part of the whole shtick. Out with the chickens, the whole thing.
Because that's exactly what's going to happen is the wife's going to want the chickens and we're going to have and I'm going to be one feeding them.
Yeah.
Okay. But can I have the chicken coop though? I saw this on Pinterest, or I don't know what social media. I want the chicken coop that basically is KFC. So I've got the Colonel Sanders. It's painted red and white. I think that would be awesome. So wrong, but so funny. So awesome.
All right, on the subject of, well, no more
Chicken coops?
but kids.
Okay.
Kids.
Okay, back to kids.
So, how long have you been married and how did you meet?
Oh, very fun story. So, met my wife 17 years ago, and believe it or not, through Match.com. We found each other online. So it was a very fun story. Now, as my wife tells it, I'm not sure if I quite believe this part of it, and I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for this. But she was helping. She was a wing woman. She was helping a friend, find their soulmate online. And so she, in order to look at the matches, she needed to subscribe. So, and you know what? I had my marriage had ended a few years earlier, and I was, looking to get back in the dating game. And I was like, all right, I just need to do this. As you can tell, I'm an introvert, so it was hard for me.
You must have a very hard time speaking with people. That's very hard.
It's just very, very.
Yeah.
So the struggle is real. So it was on Match.com. Found Kay, Kay's profile, and she had some very funny things that in stuff we shared in common. So I just sent her a little note and traded a couple emails, and then we were going out and hanging out just a few weeks later.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. I will tell you something fun. Another fun part of that, though, is she stood us up. She stood me up for our first phone call. She did.
But you took her back.
I did. She, I was like, we had this phone call planned because, the big jump going from email to the phone. And so, yep, we had it all planned out. It was like 8:00. The kids had gone to sleep, and I was waiting and waiting. 9:00 came. So I'm like, all right, I sent her a little text saying, hey, something must have come up. And then came, next morning, of course, I got the hey, I'm sorry, something happened at work. And so, as we're now married 15 years, I forgave her. So
It all worked out.
It all worked out.
And I love that you're dating yourself a little by the fact that you were emailing. Now it would be texting or DMing on social.
Yeah, exactly. So I could not even imagine dating now. Watching the kids go through that is just, the rules and everything are just unreal. I could never follow all those rules. No.
I don't know anything about it. I was on Match for a little bit of time about 10 years ago, and it's fun.
Yeah. It's a job.
It's a job. It's a job for sure.
It's totally a job.
For sure. Okay, so back to homes.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you are seeing for people who want to either buy a new home or change, from their existing home? What are some of the things that they're struggling with the most? Is it, having enough inventory? Is it getting qualified? Is it interest rates? Like, what are some of the big challenges that are happening?
You definitely hit it there. I think the biggest challenge that my clients are going through, and people that I chat with, pretty much every week, it's the interest rates. We had a taste of 3% and sub 3% interest rates, and it wasn't for a long time, but just like a good sale price on on an item you really, really want, you keep on going back to that price or to that interest rate, and unfortunately, it's not coming back. It really isn't. So what we need to do is just kind of accept that and know that 6.5%, 6.75% was what it is right now, without buying a rate down is the norm. But there are ways to get around that. And you know what? That's where I come in is I can help you with that. We can chat with your lender and go, all right, so we need X amount of money to buy down that interest rate so it's a little more palatable. Because you know what? It's all about being comfortable. I have a saying, it's like, I want you to be able to sleep at night after we close escrow on this home. I mean, it's really important. I don't want you to get into a property where, you're struggling to make that monthly payment. That's not a good feeling for you or for me. So we can get that interest rate down. It really doesn't cost that much when you look at it. And there are ways to do it where we get the seller to go ahead and, pay part of that and buy that down. So
they'll buy it down for like a certain percentage of time, like for the first year or something.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have a client who's a new home builder, and they're doing that. They're like buying your interest rate down for a year or two or something like that.
Yeah. And you can not only buy it down for a year or two, but you can also buy it down permanently too. So it just really depends on, how much you have towards your down payment and, a little bit of creative financing too. You can go ahead and have, that seller help you with those type of things. There are some limits, there are some rules, but it is possible. You just need to get creative.
And are sellers willing to give those types of incentives right now? Because I know for a while it was like there was, it was a hot market and they were like, and we're not going to give you anything.
Yeah, no, fortunately, for buyers right now, there is some flexibility. There is more inventory than we've had in the last couple of years. We're seeing it continue to grow. And yes, because there's more inventory and buyers have more choices, sellers are more flexible and they're willing to be more flexible. Homes are staying on the market between 45 and 60 days, depending, on where, even more. And, those sellers tend to be a little more flexible when they've been, on the market a few weeks. And so, that absolutely can be to our advantage.
One of the great things about being in this part of the Metroplex is you can make a decision on whether or not to build or to buy. So what do you help people think? What do people need to think about when they're making that decision? What are the pros and cons?
Well, whether you are building in a subdivision or you found that perfect plot of land and you want to go ahead and build from scratch with a custom builder, just know that it is a lot of decision making, a lot of decisions. So, I mean, even more than you'll even think of, from not only just the layout of the house to the color faucets that you want in the house, to the toilet paper rings, or all those little decisions you have to pick and you have to make, the doorknob handles, and it becomes a lot of decisions and a lot of costs. So if you're going to build with a custom builder, just know that it's going to be a lot. That totally screwed up for that. So sorry.
It's great. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's absolutely a lot. The good news is when you do build with in a subdivision, a lot of those decisions have been made for you. They have what call spec homes. So where they've made those decisions and you can have certain choices. You can add on a bonus room, you can add a media room or a game room, but they've made a lot of those decisions on layout and other things for you, which can be very advantageous.
Yeah, you have to really enjoy that process. You have to want to pick out all of your appliances, your faucets and all of your backsplashes and all of that, because otherwise it can be really overwhelming.
Not only overwhelming, it can be very expensive too. So, when you purchase a new construction, you have to kind of have the base price, kind of like a base model of a car. And once you start adding, tilt steering wheel and leather seats and, granite countertops, those prices kind of add up. And, you start writing more and more checks and the price of the home goes up. So is your monthly payments. So, you know what? You need to upgrade a home to make yourself comfortable, but just want to be a little mindful of all the upgrades you put in there, because some of them, might not be worth what you pay for them, down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to get those granite countertops, you might be spending
Can be bucks.
way more than what you actually spend after the interest rate over 30 years and, all of that. It's sometimes not worth it. And it does add up. I did it about 10 years ago. And I remember they gave us like a, whatever, here's the allotment.
Yep.
We're like, oh my God, that's so much money. And you go in and you're like, that's nothing.
Yeah, wait.
So you're like, oh gosh, I'm leaving here spending another, I think another like 30 grand or something, right? If I wanted all the things I really wanted, it would be another 100 grand. You don't realize how quick they add up.
Oh yeah, it adds up. The design center can be a very expensive experience. Yeah.
But fun.
Oh.
For me, it was so fun. Some people are like, I'm out. Just tell me, I just want to move into something. Tell me what looks good and I'm out.
Oh, I know. For us, we spent, 2-3 hour visits or 3-hour visits in the design center. And again, it's overwhelming. I mean, I do this for a living and it was overwhelming. Like, wow.
And you look at homes all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does it make you go home and want to change things all the time? Like, are you always like, oh, look at that backsplash. We need to redo our kitchen.
It's funny. I actually sent, I did some social media posts on a kitchen just a few weeks ago. And of course, my wife's like, you really like that? Would you want to do that? And I'm like, oh no. So it was actually very funny, but absolutely. I love that. Ideas for the backyard, or right now we're thinking about doing some tweaks to our primary bedroom. And so it's like, ooh, we're looking at those accent walls. I'm like, so I'm snapping pictures when I'm going through and looking at, I was like, how about this? How about this? How about that? And, but that's part of the fun part of my job.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like Pinterest on steroids. I could never be a realtor because I would want to come home and change everything in my house every week. And then I would be done and then I'd want to do it again.
Thankfully, I'm not quite there, but yeah, it is very addictive, especially for me right now. It's landscaping because it's like, also because it's like it's starting to get warm out and it's in the 70s. It's like, okay, what are we gonna do with the backyard this year? Got to do something kind of fun. So I love that part. I want to back up for a second and talk just one last thing about new home construction because that's just one of the things that a lot of people don't know is, walking into a new community can just be so overwhelming for people. You've got, 3 or 4 model homes and you've got, smiling people in the builder's office and they're, like, hey, let me walk you through and everything. And, they'll handle everything for you. They'll write up the contract and they will do everything. One thing that I just want everybody to seriously think about is just being represented by a realtor when you go through that experience.
Always.
I mean,
You need someone representing your interests. And I think even the home builders would say that, right? You want to have somebody that represents your interests.
Oh, 100%. And the one thing nice about new construction is the builders have a kind of separate fund in which they pay realtors through. So whether you have a realtor or not, it doesn't affect the price that the builder's charging you. So, with the $800,000 home, with a realtor or without. Another advantage of having a realtor is we can go with you to the design center and we can help save you a little bit of money or help you if you're on a budget or help go, between this flooring and that flooring, here's, the pluses and minuses, kind of an independent perspective there. And also one thing too is a lot of these builders have incentives right now. And, you kind of don't ask if, you don't get if you don't ask. So unless you're very, very knowledgeable about what the builder's asking or rather offering, then, you're going to miss out and you could leave some money on the table.
And who would be, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, right? I mean, we probably, even if you are changing homes every 5 years or something, you're never going to become an expert.
It's tough to stay on top of everything that's going on in the market because it does change pretty quickly. And it also varies by city.
And that's why you want to have a really good realtor right in your corner who's on top of everything, knows what's going on, knows how to negotiate.
Yep, absolutely. You want somebody who's going to be with you from the very start of the process all the way through the very end.
So earlier we were talking about starting to get nice out. Finally, it's been really cold here in Texas. And so I think it's almost 70 out today. It's getting really beautiful.
Beautiful.
So what do you do on days when you're not showing homes? It's a beautiful 70, 80, 90 degree day. What's your go-to?
Oh, wow. Well, 2 things that would absolutely, would be an easy choice on a Saturday. If I wasn't holding an open house or working with a client, I would love to head out. We've got a pontoon boat, head out on Lake Louisville or go up to Texoma and just kind of putter around on the boat. There's something special about just being on the water, just kind of just floating, relaxing. That's kind of our happy place, if you will. We're also fortunate enough that we've got a little weekend getaway up in Texoma. So scooting up there for a day or two is sheer heaven. We just, it's amongst the trees and not too far from the water. And again, it's just a place where you can relax and decompress. So
I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about when they think of the DFW area is water, right? Because if you look on a map, we're really far from, any major body of water, but there's so many lakes here.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we were talking earlier about, being within 20 minutes of being able to, buy a house with an acre of land. Same thing goes with, a body of water or a lake. We have, let's see, Louisville, we've got Lake Dallas, we've got Texoma. And then, that's without even, that's what, 15 minutes away for all of those. Well, not 15 minutes.
Not even.
No,
right?
exactly.
It's only 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes. And then
Tops.
Texoma, door to door for me is less than an hour.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's from Prosper. Yeah, an hour tops.
Yep. Just head down Preston Road and you'll run right in the water.
Yeah. That's really nice. How can you, I'm curious about lake home or, lake homes. That's what we used to call them, like a little hideaway kind of thing. Do you ever help people find those? I know you said you have one. Do you know anything about that market? If somebody wanted to, they were already established in this area, but they want a little weekend getaway. What can you get something for these days?
Well, we did some exploring up in the Pottsboro and kind of Gordonville area, so right around there. And it really depends on what you want. I mean, same thing like around Louisville here. I mean, you could easily find a home right on the lake, piece of cake, no problem. It's just a little bit pricier here. So if you want to get something on Lake Louisville, right on the water, you're probably looking, $1.5 million to $2 million, depending on size and how new it is and when it was last remodeled. Lake Texoma, we just have a little cabin there and under 400,000, but you can find things that are a little bit less expensive and of course go all the way up to $1 million again.
Yeah, and there's still lakefront because it's a big enough lake that there's plenty of lakefront property.
Oh, there's plenty of lakefront property up there. You're not going to find that for 400,000, but you know what? You can be within a 5-minute walk of being on the lakefront too. So it really just depends on what you're looking for.
Or a little golf cart.
Oh, absolutely. Love the golf cart.
Love that idea.
Golf cart community, something we didn't have back from where I came from. And yeah, it's awesome. It is just, it's such a blast. You see the kids, we're coming back into that time right now because it's getting warm is, the parents taking the kids to school because we have a school in our community, on the golf cart, which is oh yeah.
That's awesome.
And we also haven't, when we had the snow a few weeks back, we had, people were just, I wouldn't call it four-wheeling in the golf cart, but yeah, it was pretty close. Yeah, I didn't see anybody pulling a sled behind it, but I wouldn't put it past them. So
that is something I have not seen. I love that.
Oh, it's just so funny.
Oh, that's the greatest. That's the greatest. My friend has one. She lived near Lake Louisville and up in Little Elm. And so she had a golf cart to get her back and forth. To the lake. She was only like a quarter mile away, but it was a little too far to walk with beach chairs and all that stuff. So she got the golf cart. She's recently moved closer to me, but she kept the golf cart. And my son, who's 14, is like, Mom, when can I drive the golf cart? When can I drive the golf cart?
Oh, come on, Mom. 14's old enough to drive a golf cart.
It is.
I think so. I'm pulling for you. I'm pulling for you here, just so you know.
It's going to be like great.
I'm telling you, you know what?
Thanks a lot.
And they pimp these golf carts out. I mean, you said they got the whole undercarriage lighting there, and then you've got people who just rock it out with the stereo. I mean, these are serious stuff.
I love it.
Just, it's classic. So they got the 6-seaters now. I'm waiting for like the little cooler in back there so they can, pull out a beverage. So funny.
I'm sure they're there.
Oh, I'm sure they're there too. So
they're available for sure. For sure. All right. So the number one thing you would tell somebody who is ready to either buy a new home or move from their existing home, what's the number one thing you'd tell them?
Get pre-approved. I think that's the most important thing right now is to get pre-approved and know what you're comfortable spending. Because again, I want you to sleep at night. I want you to be comfortable in your home. I want you to be happy and to be able to do those things like get a golf cart and, have fun on the weekends and all that stuff. So you know what? Get pre-approved, know what is comfortable for you. And you know what? Then we can get you into a house and fix your housing cost.
Because the last thing you want to be is house poor.
Right.
I've had so many friends who've done the house poor route, and it's no fun because you can't go anywhere or do anything. We went the opposite direction. I bought my house when I was still single, and I bought something and I was like, no matter what, this is going to be super affordable for me. I'd rather because it's something that's a little small. I'm one of those 3% interest rates, people.
Yep.
But I got something that's much smaller than, most people. I'm in a townhouse, but I wanted something that I could afford no matter what. That if I wanted to go be an entrepreneur again, and here I am, that I could do that very easily. And I can tell you my life is so much better for it. I don't have the 5,000 square foot house, but I have plenty of room, right? I don't need that. And so I think that's such wise advice to look at your money first. Because I think sometimes people will go out, they'll look at homes first and they'll fall in love with something. And then they're like, oh, but I can make it work. And then you realize, oh, but if I do, then I'm not going to eat.
Right. And you know what? Lenders have, these amazing formulas. You can just say, look, I don't want to spend more than $3,000 a month on my housing. And they can tell you what type of down payment and, how much of a house you can afford.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
What do down payments need to be these days? Because that's part of the calculation that you're talking about, right? I mean, and I've always heard anywhere from like 3%. You get the special insurance, I forget what it's called,
Mhm.
all the way up to, obviously all of it. But, what's kind of the average? What do people recommend now?
Well, it used to be back, the old school, philosophy was 20% down for a house.
Right.
It's just not realistic. I mean, especially if you're getting into your first home, 20% is just not going to happen. It's just, even in a $400,000, home, that's a lot of money. That's 80 grand.
Yeah.
So you know what? And my first time buyers, we're seeing, still 3.5%. Absolutely can happen. 5%, 5 to 10% is pretty common right now. I mean, that's what.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That opens up a whole other world for people, right? I think.
Oh, absolutely.
As someone who thought 20%, that changes the game, right? If you
Oh, yeah.
do something that's a little bit less.
Oh, absolutely. And you not only do you have the down payment, you've got some closing costs there. So again, you get with a good lender and we sit down together and we go, okay, here's what you have as your down payment. Here's how much you want as your monthly payment. And then we're able to create, a price range for a home that you can afford. And then, I can start showing you areas of where those homes are. So it's a first home. It's not where you're going to be for the next 30 years. It's a stepping stone to get you into that dream home. So
Even if it is,
yeah,
you might end up getting there and being like, this is all I need. I'm great. Right?
Yep.
I thought my home, I was like, I'll just be here for a little while. Interest rates are low. I'm still single. I want to, if I keep this money sitting in my bank account, it's going to go to Nordstrom. So it's better for me to invest it in let's be honest, it's better for me to invest it in a home. Let's put my money someplace that makes sense, make big girl decisions. And I'm so glad that I did because, we may stay there. We may end up staying there forever. My son's sort of been raised there. I don't think he wants to move. Even if I'm like, I tell him all the time, like, we can move into a bigger house. He's like, I'm good. I love it here. I'm like, cool. Excellent.
And, that's fantastic. I mean, it's all about finding that place that you love in that space. So absolutely.
Yeah. So as somebody who already owns a home, what are some of the things that I should be thinking about when it comes to my house that maybe people miss? Like when they're like me and have been in their home for about 5 years.
Well, especially with what happened with the fires out in California, the one thing that everybody should do this year if they own a home is to check their insurance coverage. I know insurance is kind of a hot button right now for everybody that, the prices are crazy and they're ridiculous, but you do not want to be underinsured. If you haven't checked your insurance in like the last 3 years, think about how much money your home's gone up in the last, 3-4 years. It's a lot. And you know what? If you haven't updated your insurance, you're underinsured. Not only to rebuild it, but all your possessions too. You've gotten more stuff, right? So, you know what? Check your insurance. Check with your insurance agent. Have them shop around for a better price too. Absolutely, it's doable. But yeah, check your insurance. You do not want to be underinsured if something horrible happens.
Yeah, one of the other things here, we've been having a lot of these freezes, and it's not really built in, right? And there's like kind of some loopholes around if it bursts, and then you've said there's a certain amount of days you have to tell them. Or I have a friend who got kind of caught in that where the flow would leak, and they didn't realize it for a while, and then there was lots of damage, but they didn't know right away. But you have to put it in within 30 days, and so those are all the things that I think a really good agent can walk you through, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just one thing you don't want to, your home is your largest investment. You do not want to cheap out on insurance. You want to have good insurance coverage. And it is definitely not cheap. And, we could talk about insurance reform on we could do a whole episode about that.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, it's just, you do not want to get caught short and have to start writing big checks. It's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. And is liability usually something that's built in with that as well? So, God forbid something happens and there's a fire in your house and somebody's there and all of that is primarily property.
It's, it's usually a combination of both. But if you do certain things, like if you have, if you do a home-based business or you have, extra
toys.
Extra toys. Thank you. That was it.
We were talking earlier in the podcast about golf carts, right? You got to make sure your golf cart's on your insurance.
Have to want to make sure that you have those additional riders so that you're covered on those things. Because again, you don't want to have something happen and find out you're not covered, and those are gone and you can't replace them. I mean, that would be horrible.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just pay for the insurance.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
Yeah, you're right. We have seen that in California recently with the fires. This is being filmed in early 2025. And so, yeah, it's been awful.
Yeah, it's just horrible seeing all those people lose their homes. So it's just bad stuff.
Well, good. I'm so glad you came today.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast chatting with you. I love Rachel.
It's eye candy
Oh.
and for some of the men, but woof.
Reacher.
Yeah, no, he's a good looking. I keep on teasing my wife. I'm like, yeah, and then she's like, no. He's like, he's two. Like, oh, all right. I said, I don't think I can ever get there, no matter how hard I work out, especially in my 50s. But
Sorry, honey.
yeah, exactly. So, shoot.
My husband just watches Reacher with me, and he's like, "You good? You good? Did that work for you? All right, let's go."
So funny.
All right.
It's got good gratuitous violence, so it's all good.
I know, right? It's got a little something for everybody.
Yeah,
We love you, Reacher.
we do.
Hashtag Amazon.
Exactly. So funny. I said the bloopers are going to be the best part. So.